Welcome to Geordie Lass Doc Sass. One day, a Geordie and a Canadian walk into a bar and decide to start a podcast about relationships, and what a topic that is. No subjects are off limits. Get in touch today with us at geordielass.com or email info@geordielass.com and let us know what you think and what we should talk about. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Oh, wow.
Hello.
Oh,
How's it going?
oh my gosh, it is great. It is great. I'm having a beautiful. I've just come back from out of town, back into Athens, and I've been away from my cat for a few days, and so I'm just back in the coach seat, back in the podcast recording seat, and my cat is in my lap, having a very loving time with my just wanting scratches. So I hope that doesn't get me distracted in our podcast. But I think I'm going to be okay. Because when it's talking about love, I always have intense focus. So it's good. Everything is great. I am so in love. Everything is awesome. Everything is love all around. So things are cool.
Oh, love is in the air for
Love
Hannah.
is in the air. Yeah. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. I feel like I've got a bit of a croaky throat today. There was absolutely nothing wrong with me, but I just think maybe I haven't exercised my vocal cords and chatted enough today.
Ah.
So yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to do a lot of that today. We'll get your... I find that everybody is in just having these prolonged colds, having this like raspy, sore throat, dry cough, all that for weeks and weeks. I was back in Canada and I did a bit of practice, and gosh, there's just this, oh my gosh, the illness is crazy. So I think all of us have a little bit of a throat that sounds like we've been in a lounge bar smoking for the last 40 years.
No, mine's definitely from lack of talking. I can definitely say that.
All right, good.
I reckon if you're in a doctor, though, surely you must just think everybody's poorly all the time, because they're the only people you see, right?
It's so true. People don't come and be like, you know what? I feel terrific.
I feel terrific. Just wanted to stop by, Doc, and let you know.
You know, it is actually really sweet. I did have a patient who stopped by when I was just practicing a few weeks ago, and just to report that when they went to the emergency department, as I asked them to do, and they brought my letter, that the emergency department said something to the effect of, "Oh, this family doctor doesn't suck." I was like, oh, I'm so tickled pink. No, it was really beautiful. It was awesome. So to be honest, shout out to that one patient who came back to me to be like, Doc, you did great. I was like, whoa, it's amazing. I don't think anybody knows just how far their appreciation goes.
Oh, fair play.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something I was astounded about and I don't know why I hadn't thought about this before.
Oh, yeah.
The difference between kind of healthcare in the US and the UK.
Ah.
So I like to follow a lot of people on Instagram randomly, as other people do too. So there's this woman who is in America, and she is a Brit, and so she talks about kind of the differences between the US and the UK, and she does funny things with her kids. She's just quite entertaining, all-round kind of person. And she's moving back to the UK, but anyway, she was doing she's heavily pregnant with her third child, and she was talking about going to the doctors and just for like a general kind of checkup. But even though they've got medical insurance, the whole bill so far was up to 30 grand, and that's with medical insurance.
Yes.
I was so surprised at that. I was like, what the fuck's going on?
Yes.
How do people afford to have babies? She's had 3. Like,
It's insane.
how is that even possible?
Oh my gosh. When I was living in the US, and I could probably kind of give you a few scenarios as to how she's chalking up that bill, not the least of which is a lot of insurance doesn't kick in until at least 16 to 24 months after you get the insurance for maternity care. So you can't get insurance and have a baby right away. The other thing too is that there's such crappy insurance, and there's such a caste system when it comes to insurance in the US. There's like really top execs with great insurance, and they don't even have to worry about what the common folk are worrying about. And then there's like insurance that's just like, you're better off even without it, that just has so many exceptions. I can't even with that country. It's just insanity. And do I call him? My man was looking at comparative rates of giving birth to a baby sometime in the 50s. And it was like in a Santa Monica hospital, and it was like something on the order of $100. All in, you stay for 5 days and somebody takes care of your kid while you're doing so. So, I mean, where have we gone?
It's crazy, isn't it? I just couldn't get over it. It just feels like such a misdoing that that you have to pay so much, like a fundamental amount to have a baby, even though you're already paying for insurance. And it just seems so unfair and unjust that people who maybe want to have kid can't, and because of the expenses. Not just that, I mean, kids are expensive anyway. But if you add like a massive bill on at the start of it, it just seems insane to me. But anyway,
it's
we're
insane.
going massively off topic, yeah.
No, I'm
And
hearing
this
you.
is me causing this. This is normally you're the naughty
Isn't
one.
this weird? I'm usually the one that goes off on tangents.
My
I
God,
like
I've got
this.
role reversal. I need to
this.
pull it back, Anna. Pull it back.
Okay.
Anyway, I just wanted to say, like, it really did shock me. I was, I
And it
clearly
hits
knew
a
nothing
nerve.
about that.
You as a mom, right? And it takes away
Yeah.
from the equity of...
Absolutely.
And again, it's not, again, when Medicaid in the US kicks in for folks who are really below the poverty line, this will affect the working poor.
Yeah.
Like a woman that I saw once who made the mistake of going into early labor with one of her children, and her bill was $120,000.
Fuck me.
And she
Seriously.
literally told me, I feel so badly that I have put this cost on my family. Now, just for anybody who doesn't know, you can't control premature labor. You just can't. So anyways, it was just horrible.
You must have people putting themselves at risk because, I mean, you'll get people that would just avoid going into the hospital.
I've seen it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they'll put themselves at massive risk because they're trying to avoid. I mean, who wants $120,000 bill? It's the start of your supposedly happy life together. It's not a very happy life, is it?
Oh, gosh, you've got it.
Anyway, I could talk about this forever. This is... We need a spin-off podcast, Anna.
Correct. But you know what?
Anyway.
It is about like babies and love and families and stuff. So it is in our
absolutely.
lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is in our lane. Oh,
Yes.
gosh. Well, I'm feeling like I need to ask you about the relationship desk of love. I'm feeling out of practice.
yes.
I'm like, what comes next? Oh, yes. Relationship correspondence.
I thought
What's
you were
going
gonna say, I
on?
feel like I need to ask you, are you pregnant? I was like, what? I most definitely am not. So for the record, that is not happening and will never be happening ever again. I have done my best for the next generation and it's time out.
It's wine o'clock now. It's
Oh my days, yeah.
Whining and
absolutely.
dining
Listen, I'm
for
on
you.
retirement planning, not baby planning.
absolutely.
Okay, so relationship desk of love.
Excellent.
Okay, I've got a little quote for you today that I read on Instagram, funnily enough.
Ah.
And so here we go. So it says, staying in a relationship just because you love someone is not worth it. Love is not all you need. Respect is what you need. Time is what you need. Reassurance is what you need. Happiness is what you need. A best friend is what you need.
Oh, nice. I'm going to say yes to some and
You've
not
got
to
an
others.
objection to something, have you?
The
can
only
feel something.
best friend, yes, a
I
best
knew it.
friend. Just not to the exclusion of other best friends. Just saying, like, diversify your portfolio, guys. That's all I'm saying.
As soon as I read that, I read the quote earlier and I thought, that's really nice to share on the podcast. But it was only when I read it a second time to you when I absolutely knew instantly.
Oh, did you know?
Object to the best friend.
Oh my gosh. Okay. No, but I keep tuned. I am learning so many things at like warp speed, and maybe I'll come around to a different view. I'm learning so much, so maybe I'll change. But what I do say is that love is not enough. I so know this. Love is not enough. Yeah. And gosh, I love that the very first thing they said is respect. Respect, I am noticing in my relationship that it's far more meaningful to say, I respect you than I love you. That sounds crazy, doesn't it? It hits on a value far deeper than love.
I think, the issue with I love you is it's often kind of used a lot. So we use it in the kind of like at the end of a phone call, I love you, bye. So we kind of say it, and I'm sure that we mean it at the time, but it's not always delivered with that same intensity of when you get that real kind of rush, and not just the kind of heady rush of like, oh, I'm in the kind of first throes of passion, but that kind of deep spiritual, I feel connected to you, my whole kind of body feels taken over by the love that I feel for you right now in this moment. And when we say I love you from that position, it comes across with much more depth and feeling than it does when, you're walking out the door after work going, I love you, bye. So I think there's a kind of,
Yeah.
whereas often when we're talking about respect, we're saying it in that vein of, you know, I really respect that you told me that, or I really respect you standing your ground on that, or I really respect the way that you dealt with that. That was quite a difficult situation. So we're often saying it in connection with something, again, that is more kind of like a deeper feeling situation.
Gosh, that's so true.
Maybe, I don't know.
I think you're right. In this relationship where I'm learning so much, I am, I think I've said this before, but I'm using the words I love you very sparingly so that they don't become part of the daily hi and bye.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to last, but I still like to keep it as something that I say with some sort of shyness, like it almost has that feeling of the first time a little bit.
Oh,
Just a personal thing, playing with it.
very cute.
Yeah, it is. Oh, that's very nice. That's lovely. It's a beautiful manifesto. Yeah.
So, shall we do a hot topic, which is actually linked?
Oh, as it is always. Yes, let's go.
Never by design, but the universe helps us out.
Oh.
Okay, today's hot topic, the core pillars of love.
Ah, yes.
As if
Yes.
by magic.
Oh my gosh. Okay, good.
So, what do you think are the core pillars of love?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it's funny because I don't know, and just for the listener, we don't actually prepare these things. This is totally coming. So I like my 3 C's plus 1 C, which a very good friend has sort of imparted, which is the communication pillar, the compatibility pillar, the chemistry pillar, but also the commitment pillar. So I guess that's 4 C's. So all 3 of those C's plus the commitment to each other. So those for me are like the 4. But actually now that we've been talking about it, I'm like, wait a minute, no, but respect has to be in there somewhere. So I'm at the drawing board.
It's tricky when you talk about these things, isn't it? Because you start to draw up a list and you think, well, there's so many things that need to be present in order to kind of have that love, to have that really healthy connection that we talk about, and to feel like you've got a really thriving relationship. Because I guess if we link it back to that, to the love desk, then love really isn't enough. So we kind of do need these other things, but also love, like, how do you describe love? Love is kind of an action. It's something that we do. It's a verb. And it's quite tricky, isn't it, to describe what love is? And people have tried to do this. Poets, musicians, films, all kinds of kind of artistic creations have tried to really depict what love is. And, scientists will try and kind of say what it feels like in the body or how kind of the brain changes. And there's all these things, but we really struggle to kind of say what a definition of love is. And I guess that's where kind of thinking about what are core pillars. So core pillars to me are what needs to be present in order to make love flourish and happen. And so that's where I would come from. It is what needs to be present in a relationship. What do we need to be doing? What needs to be part of our kind of everyday makeup? So for me, I agree with some of the points that you've raised. And I would say, obviously communication, that's got to be there. I think for me, connection. And by connection, I mean that kind of that spiritual, that kind of intimate, that you're more than just a friend to me. And it's not just about, it's not about sex, though that plays a part in it, but it is about that you're kind of, you're more than that. We are connected on a much deeper level. And also kind of aligned with that is around support. So we're there to support each other. I'm there to help to make you a better person. I'm also there to kind of help on those shitty days when actually kind of you feel like the world is conspiring against you. It should be your partner that you turn to in those days where life leads you a blow that you just weren't expecting and it pulls the rug out from underneath you. Your partner should be there to support you in those moments. But I think outside of that, there are some kind of foundations that also need to be present. And for me, trust is one of them. But I've also got a new one that I've been kind of thinking about over the last, I would say, kind of 6 to 8 months. And it's come from kind of like self-exploration, but also working with clients as well. And for me, this is around kind of purpose and vision. And I think you can have all of those things can be present, but if you haven't got something, a purpose, a vision, something that kind of, I guess it links with the connection part, but something that kind of joins you together and a direction of travel that you're going in, you could have the other things and think, well, that's not enough.
Oh, cool. As you know, I'm seeing things through new eyes, and so what I thought was the truth is, and I'm seeing this differently. I wonder where this would fit in. I have seen where, I guess it gets to compatibility, but I've seen where it seems like there's shared compatibility, but there truly is not, and maybe it's the shared values that I'm trying to reach for, because when you are with somebody where a lot of the same values or the things that you find important or the things that you're proud of that you can do, if your partner does not see those things, doesn't appreciate them, it's not important, your relationship won't meaningfully get off the ground. Certainly if you have things about yourself that you're actually quite proud of, but that actually turns the other person off, that is going to be a thorn in the side of the relationship. I don't know, though, if that kind of gets all into values.
I think for me, that's around kind of shared qualities and having where you've got shared qualities or you've got qualities that you can admire in the other person. You start to get that kind of admiration starts to show through in your relationship, and your relationship comes from a place of strength rather than a place of lacking.
Okay, admiration is a great word, because that is something that I feel tremendous abundance of, and it is because and what's interesting is that what makes me admire somebody is not what another woman would admire, like, and conversely, like the things that I feel like my person admires is not what has been admired in the past. And so if you can get a nice synergy, because the thing that I do all the time is the things that I admire about myself, and if that annoys another person, well, I'm going to keep on doing it, and that will be a highly annoying relationship. But if the other person, it's glorious to spend a lot of moments admiring somebody, because then that generates love, that generates sexual attraction. It's nice to also call it out when you feel it, to say, hey, gosh, I just found that really attractive. The way that I overheard a work call, and I like how you take command of calls. I like your communication style, etc. That stuff is all great. So I think that's in the moment stuff. But then you mentioned sort of that forward vision. But the qualities that you admire lead to the forward vision. I'm trying to see how, like, the mission, aside from, like, do we want to have children? Do we want to travel? Do we want to retire early? Like, do we want to spend our lives in spiritual connection or in a pursuit of religion or something? Like,
I think a lot of it is around that lifestyle or life purpose creation. In where you've got complete misalignment of that, that's going to be quite tricky, I think, to overcome. If you've got somebody who, I'm at the time in my life where, I'm hoping at some stage I can actually retire. I know I'm quite far off it, but I like to plan ahead, right? So, we will have conversations about what that would look like. We've got friends around us who have already retired, and I'm massively jealous of them. But equally, when I think about that, I think, well, actually, I know I wouldn't do quite well if I didn't have anything to do. Like, I know I wouldn't be kind of great and I wouldn't thrive in that kind of environment. I'm used to being purposeful. I'm used to having kind of projects to work on. I'm used to kind of helping other people and working with other people. So I think about all of that, and all of that, I would still want to have some sort of presence of that in my life. Now, if my partner was like, no, that's the exact opposite to how I want to be. I want to be able to kind of sell everything up. I want to do a kind of, a continuous round trip around the world. I'm not bothered about having a fixed abode. That's not important to me. Then we start to get kind of two very different, and I'm not saying that's where he is, because it's not, but, you start to get two very different future worlds. And if you've got two very future worlds that are going to kind of play out in 10, 15 years' time, then is that a long-lasting relationship? Is that something you want to carry and invest in your time in? You know, they're just things to kind of consider and think about.
Yeah, it is. And I think the biggest mistake that we often make is that we share these goals, but then we don't actually hear the other person, and we kind of think, maybe I can convince them that that's not what they want to do.
Yeah.
And for a short while, we often will put our goals, our mission and our purpose on the back shelf because of like the love and the infatuation. We kind of hope that it'll just sort itself out. That doesn't happen.
Well, yeah, but I mean, even worse than that, it's just completely ignoring it and thinking, well, this will never come to fruition, so I don't need to worry about it.
And it's horrible. And I think especially around children, if somebody has said, I want children, that is something to be taken so seriously. The worst thing that one can do is just say, I maybe my partner is just going to change their mind.
I mean, you're time bound, right? So we know that medically you've got a certain cut-off, and we'll have extremes outside of kind of both sides of that. But you've got a specific time bound influence there. That means if it's not right, then you really do have to be honest in those situations.
Mm-hmm. That's true. A lot of this comes down to kind of hard things where a lot of us want to look away, again, especially in the infatuation stage, and say, there's maybe some red flags here, or maybe I don't want to take a look because I'm having such a good time. We'll often do that in our earlier relationships, again, because linking back to the relationship news, we believe that love is enough, and then...
I think a lot of time, though, you don't even see them, right? You're like that... You're that into the relationship that you don't even see that. I mean, how many times have you ended a relationship and looked back and gone, fuck me, I should have spotted that.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, we've all been there, right? Like, and quite a lot of things. You're like, it's not just one thing, it's like multiple things. But in that moment, you don't see any of it because you don't want to. Like, and why would you? You're having fun.
Yeah, you're having fun.
It's very hard to be objective at the start of a relationship and go, no, I'm going to do my full risk assessment on whether this relationship's going to work out or not. I've got my clipboard and my checklist ready. I've got my red flag list and I've got my green flag list, and then I'm going to add them up at the bottom and we're going to see where we're going to be. Okay,
well, that actually almost exactly describes... the person that I'm dating right now. Because
what, you have
Excel
the red
spreadsheets.
Flag and green flag list, or he does?
He does. Oh yeah, no. He...
Do you get a weekly performance review as to how well you're doing on the list?
Do you know what's really funny is that we actually do regularly kind of check in and reflect.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
I've still got to get back to the spreadsheet, and so the listeners will not forgive me otherwise. What's the crack here?
Killing myself here. Oh my gosh. Like, no, it's because I fly by the seat of my pants, and he's very methodical and sort of looks for the red flags. It's so funny. I learned a lot because I generally sort of dive in nose first without checking the depth of the water or if there's rocks down there. Anyways, and so I've like fallen headlong into wonderful relationships, and they've all taught me a lot, but they've been really poorly suited for me. It's just really curious to learn from him, to say that he does a risk analysis like at the beginning and ensures that he's not put in a position where his thinking mind is turned off by the infatuation stage. So very much tries to avoid coming under the spell of the pheromones, essentially. And it's fascinating because I'm like, my nature is like, let's just enjoy the love lust, like can't keep our hands off each other stage. But it is really cool to not be blinded, because, and I do have to take issue with your point. I have seen the flags. I've been told we are not alike. We are very different people. And I was like, no, we're so similar, whatever. And it's like at the end of looking back, it's like, oh yeah, we were very separate. So you know what? I'll tell you that we hear who our partner is at the beginning, and a lot of the time we don't listen. And we try to tell our partner who we are at the beginning, and they may not listen. So just saying. every one of the red flags and the incompatibility. I have known at the very beginning, but I was like, love is enough. So this is a 1 point for the 1 point for the spreadsheet, 0 points for diving in nose first and not checking the depth of the water, which has been my strategy. I actually really have benefited from being slowed down because I'm like, let's just be spontaneous.
A new way to love.
It is. It's funny. I thought that spontaneity was the like, oh, everything, no, there's great romance and practicality. And I'm also sort of drawing upon my best friend. She's a lawyer, and she's the one who said that a prenup is the most romantic thing you could ever do because she loves pre-planning. I think I've probably said that on our podcast before.
Well, I think it's the most sensible thing you can do, but
planning, yeah.
Whether it's the most love-creating thing you can do, I'm not too sure.
True that.
On the case of spontaneity, I once worked with a guy who I am in the same camp as you, so we'd be like, yeah, let's do it. What's the worst that can happen? And so we're having this, we're on this kind of program, this course, and he was like, yeah, I can be spontaneous. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, when is it then? What examples have you got? And he said, well, as long as I've made sure that I've got enough money for it, I've done all the cleaning in advance, we've got all the chores out of the way, then I can be really spontaneous on a Friday night. It's like, you do know that's not spontaneity, don't you?
That's hilarious.
But it was his version, right? So it was kind of creating the capacity, the ability to be free, knowing that he had taken care of all the things that would have got in the way or, would have kind of cluttered his mind and prevented him from having fun and feeling free.
Oh my gosh, that is great. And so that is true. Like, I'm starting to realize, like, measured spontaneity with a dash of spreadsheet.
I'm a big fan of a spreadsheet, so
okay, so you're on it.
Let's not diss Excel. Thank you very much.
I love it. That's awesome.
Or Google Sheets. There are more than one out there.
Oh yes, and lest anybody think that we're married to Microsoft, that is not true. We are open source on this podcast.
Although I wouldn't mind being. God, can you imagine?
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, we digress. I'm not doing so well this week.
That's awesome. So how do we, what would you summarize our 4 pillars of love? Because I got lost in the sauce.
Well, I don't know that there's 4 as such. I think we've got some definite commonality around communication, around whether it's kind of connection, support, whether you put those in the same brackets, or that compatibility, just being able to feel like we are more than the sum of kind of ourselves. It's without being kind of massively codependent. Conversation for another podcast. I think there is, I introduced this kind of trust and purpose in there. Purpose is kind of a new thing for me that I'm kind of playing around and thinking about. I think the trust is just a fundamental of any relationship. I think you need to be able to trust each other. You need to be able to rely on each other. What was the other things you had on your list?
Oh gosh, okay, sorry.
Yeah,
trust.
Compatibility, connection, communication.
Yeah.
There's another C.
And commitment. But that trust.
Yeah. Again, I think commitment though it's like trust. I think you cannot have a relationship without commitment and trust, because if you haven't got commitment, I just think that's like a foundation. It's a fundamental, and without it, your relationship will not survive. I can categorically tell you.
Yeah.
Because you've always got one foot in and one foot out. It's never going to work. If you've always got that kind of secret bag packed inside of your head or your cupboard, whatever's going on in a relationship, then you're always ready to exit. If you've always got a kind of a plan B, an exit strategy, you're not fully committed. Yes. And if you don't want to work on your relationship, so I heard this recently as well, like, this idea that, well, I am committed, but I don't want to put all this work in if they're not committed and they don't put the work in. Well, decide for yourself, guys. If you're committed, commit to it. Do what you need to do, regardless of what the other person says.
Yes, you've got it. Oh, heck yes. Love. I'm not going to say love without reservation, because it's not love, but like, throw yourself in, even if you get hurt, because you can look back and say, I showed up with everything that I had. It's just this beautiful thing to give everything, so long as it's a reasonably healthy relationship. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest things we hear from clients that are kind of break up or have previously broken up with somebody is, I wish I tried harder. I wish I'd done more. I wish I'd paid attention earlier. I wish I'd addressed things sooner. So we get that kind of series of regrets because we aren't showing up fully. We're not fully committed. We're not investing kind of our all into relationships.
Well, I'll say that, but on the flip side, and what you're saying, I think, is of the partner who was probably avoidant or more tentative, who was the less committal of the pair. I will say that on the other side, though, for the person who feels very committed, who wants to commit, but doesn't exactly get that feeling of reciprocity, a lot of the time we have to learn what somebody being committed to us really feels like. Because I think we often watch one too many movies where we have to like chase somebody down and lasso them down so they finally like appreciate us and see what makes see our good qualities. And I will say that like I would never have known until now what it feels like to be with somebody who is similarly in it. I am so used to chasing people who are non-committal, and I thought that was normal. A fish doesn't know they're in water. And now that I'm in a different set of an environment, I'm like, I will never be able to go back because now I feel what it feels like for somebody to be like in as I am.
But I don't think that being committed is necessarily about chasing somebody down, being a people pleaser, doing everything to make the relationship work at all costs.
And that's the thing.
That's not what commitment is, and it's not what investing time is.
Oh, and that's the thing. Like I have done the people pleasing and the chasing and, et cetera. And I just realized I was just chasing after somebody who was running away from me and would only kind of turn around to see me if I was like running away myself. I'm sick of that game. But that's the only game I knew how to play. And so the commitment game, I think, for anybody who sees themselves in that description, it's like, now I understand what it feels like. I would never settle for anything less than that kind of quality where I feel like I am investing time and effort and the other person is doing so too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Nice lively debate today.
A little feisty, yes.
Shall we take a question?
Yes, let's go.
Today's question. My partner is going through a tough time and I want to support them. They are very independent and it can be hard to know what to do at times. Sometimes I feel like I don't exist, but I do really want to do the best I can.
Okay. It's funny, you just mentioned codependence, and I'm like, actually, Sarah, I think this is the conversation for today's podcast. Independent, codependent, interdependent, all the things. So this is a delicious question because there's a lot in here. So there may be some, this may be a situation where their partner is actually avoidant or sort of too far away. This might be a person who has a little bit of codependent tendencies where they feel more habituated to being quite intertwined in terms of knowing where their person is, what their person is feeling at all times, having shared activities all the time. So there's this gentle balance that I feel is not being struck in this relationship. And I'm like, let's get into it.
I think the thing that stands out to me is the person asking the question has made this situation all about them.
Oh, Sarah, I love it. I love when you come up with this stuff. Yes.
Like they're saying they want to help their partner, but they've made it all about them, right? Like,
yes, well played.
So that would be my question. What happens? So I can almost envisage this scenario, right? And maybe I'm doing that because I'm a hyper independent person. So I can see myself in the other person's shoes, perhaps. And there can be times when the shit hits the fan, where you just know what you need to do and you just need to crack on and do it. And really, there isn't anything else that you need from anybody else. You just need to get through a very difficult period of time, whether that's kind of something kicking off at work or something to do with your family members, or you've got a financial crisis that is kind of yours or if you're making or whatever. But it's something that is, it's not necessarily connected to the relationship. So I can kind of see the scenario and the person is just like, I know what I need to do. I need some time. I just need to do it. It becomes all encompassing. So you no longer have that capacity and space and breadth to be able to kind of nurture and care for and play an active role in your relationship. It's probably going to be temporary. It's not going to be a kind of ongoing thing, I would imagine. And so in that time, sometimes the only thing you can do to help is actually say, do you know what, I'm going to give you the space that you need. I can tell that things are really tough right now for you. I'm here. I'm on the sidelines. Whenever you need me, I'm here. And I'll check in with you every so often just to make sure that there's nothing that you need. But I'm not going to be overly bearing in this situation.
Okay.
So that's one potential scenario.
I think that this is, okay, yeah, like, 5,000%, totally agree. And I think the overall sort of philosophy of how do we, and things will be different in the start of a relationship to sort of getting more serious, to deciding, do we want to make a long-term commitment? And your level of interdependence is going to change with every stage. But we come in with a certain set of expectations around how our needs are going to be met, how we're going to meet the other person's needs. You mentioned that this really great quality of saying, look, I'm going to step to the side and you let me know. But similarly, like, you'd be also like, if I need you in here and you're off wandering around on the seas, I need to grab you back in and say, I need you for this. Here's the specific need, and this is how you can help me.
Yeah, I think what I'd say as well on the other side of it is, if you're that person that is like massively independent and going off and solving your own crises and coming to your own rescue, which is fine. There is that need to remember, though, that you are still in a relationship and you're kind of, because at that level, you're almost kind of reverting back to type. You're becoming that kind of single independent person again, but you're in a relationship. So that also doesn't work long term. It might kind of wash for, a few days, a week, or 2 weeks, whatever. But long term, that isn't going to kind of wash because you are still in a relationship. And we talk about communication a lot. In fact, I don't think we've mentioned it much. So let's bring it in.
Right, exactly.
So there is a need for you as the person who's in the fire to actually kind of communicate as well and say, look, just want you to know I'm still okay. This is where I'm at. Give some regular updates, give some kind of timeline about when you think some of this crap might settle down and you'll get things kind of under control, and when things will kind of start to get back to some sort of sense of normality in your relationship. And also to appreciate the space and to say thank you. And I appreciate you being there if I do need you. And it's really great to know that I've got you and you've got my back if and when I need it.
Right. Communication is great. I think trust is really important too, because sometimes if there's a really hyper independent partner, the other person might be worried, okay, well, what are you doing when I'm not there? There's always
But also trust on the other side, right? So what is it about this person where they feel like they need to be this kind of hyper independent and only I can deal with this, only I can sort this out. So I need full control in this moment. And I get the feeling there isn't any communication going on. There is just a kind of a pure shutdown kind of, to the battlefield. And, but actually what would happen if you switched that up a bit and just said, look, I want to open up and I want to trust my partner to be able to maybe share some of the load or just have a conversation with and clear your headspace or whatever it is.
Okay, so I think this is the stages side, because as we're getting to know each other, we'll retreat to the things that are most comfortable. And I think that it's important, as we're establishing trust, that we may retreat back to the coping strategies that we employed before we met each other. And there should be some acknowledgement that, okay, I understand that you're doing this because you've always done that, and that's cool. You do you if you need something. But down the road, I would love for us to try to streamline things a little bit and to start to let me in. It may not be that today might not be the thing. I even notice this, I can be very codependent, but also very hyper independent. There's just certain things that I get very fearful of, like missing flights, certain things not being done in a certain way. And I always retreat to myself because I'm scared of something being taken away from me and that, or being denied me, giving somebody else the control over filling my needs. And that goes way back to childhood. And so I find myself sort of defending and going into sort of like lock it down solo mode. But in this relationship, I am noticing that as trust is building, I'm starting to be able to let go of the reins a little bit and give a little bit of that control or that involvement to another person. And as he is stepping up and demonstrating that, you've given me this thing to take care of and I'm doing it. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll be able to give a little bit more. So it's a very dynamic process. I think there should be understanding of each going to each other's trenches in the beginning, but that can't be forever. I've spent years in a relationship where there was no shared finances, no shared assets, no shared anything, right? And that was just total two islands sitting separately, which seems all nice and cool. But at the end of the day, there's actually nothing that really binds you together. In getting vulnerable to become interdependent, you get to a place where it's not like you can't live without the other person, but
you don't want to.
Yeah, but it is scary because like if they were to drop out of your life one day, there would be a big hole missing. And for some of us, that's really scary. We've lost other people or other people who have abandoned us before. It's scary.
No, it is. It's terrifying. And that's the thing that kind of holds us back. But, as what was it the Queen said when she lost her husband? She said something about, you have to experience loss if you're going to experience love.
Oh.
Or something like that.
I totally remember that.
I'd have to go back quite a few podcast episodes to find that out. But it's something like that. We have to, if we are going to experience the love and the joy and the connection that comes with all of that, then, we do have to accept that at some stage, whether short, medium or long term, we are going to experience some loss. Unless we live together forever and you're the one that dies first. In which case, it's all on your partner.
What's really funny is that I actually, apparently because of how poorly men tend to experience life after they lose a spouse, and unfortunately that we know this to be true, the life expectancy of married men is much higher than the life expectancy of single men, just because who else is going to be able to like get food on the table and like make sure the washing is done right, unfortunately. But there's this apparently...
Not in all cases, I have to say.
Yeah. But there's a saying apparently in Greece here where it's a really bad... it's something that you would say to an enemy, like something that like a really horrible thing to say is like, may she die first. Or something like that. Just to say, oh my gosh. Anyways, that's a little dark humor. But yeah.
I've already said I have to go first because I'm not sorting out that garage.
Oh my God.
100% I'm going first. I can't see it happening, but anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Who knows, right? None of us know how long we've got.
We don't. And so, yes, this whole thought of living life together and the fear of losing that person or us, we don't know. Yeah. But again, love fiercely. We will lose something, a lot, but it's the only way to fly, to really relinquish oneself to somebody else in an interdependent way, in a way that we're still standing our own self up, like as in tango. In tango, you always have to carry your own weight, but just a little lean into your partner. So there's a bit of that shared energy, and that you're not going to fall over if they step away. But everything is made more magical as you dance together and create something beautiful together.
And now I think we've definitely gone off topic.
Totally.
But beautiful nonetheless.
Totally. Well, let's rein it back in. So.
So did we answer the question?
That's a good question. And I think really incisive comment there is that the person asking the question it really is all about them. And you...
Under a veil of wanting to kind of help. And I'm sure they do want to help, but I'd take a kind of step back if I was the person and just say, why is it that I want to help? What is it I'm trying to gain here? And actually, if I flip it and say, what's the right thing for my partner right now? Does that look differently?
And if I were to also acknowledge my own need and why this really bothers me, in this, as I am really getting curious about what my partner needs, how do I also then convey the boundaries and the limits so that I'm not going without?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There is work on both sides.
Always.
Oh, right. Slight diversion throughout the podcast today.
Oh, Mike. Well, I thought, I was like, well, I think Sara just gave me unwritten permission to go wandering off topic. And I was like, I'm just going to take that road. It's a Sunday drive.
Well, I started the derail and you ended it.
I just took it off the bullet train to nowhere. But then we always loop around and find our way
Always
back.
get there eventually.
Exactly.
Well, it was a pleasure as ever, my love.
As ever. Indeed. And here's to a beautiful
week ahead.
Yes. Well, and as always, we find ourselves at the dinner hour and perhaps the hour for a little glass of wine, maybe just one. Sidebar, the evidence for and against alcohol for your health just keeps volleying around like a ping pong game. So I'm always a little bit like, should I mention a little drink, a cheeky drink at the end of our podcast? Is it unhealthy? I just don't know. Stay tuned, guys.
I'm pretty sure it's unhealthy, but anyway, a little bit what you fancy does you good.
Ah, indeed.
All right. Until next time.
Until next time.
So that's it for another week of Geordie Lass and Doc Sass. We hope you've enjoyed listening as much as we've enjoyed chatting. Get in touch and share your questions for relationship remedies and any hot topics you want us to cover. If you need help navigating all things relationships, Anna and Sara are available for one-on-one coaching support. Email info@geordielass.com. Please remember to like, share, subscribe if you've enjoyed listening. And if you've not, how on earth have you made it this far? I promise we'll try harder next time.